Joined this evening on the Talk Back by Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur. Thank you very much for your time, busy woman.
You. A pleasure to be here.
Last time we talked with you, you were headed to Israel. The trip is now over. Tell us about that trip and how it went.
Yes, well, at this very serious time in the Middle East, I traveled back to that region, not at taxpayer expense, along with the Cleveland and Toledo Jewish Federations.
Okay.
I was also privileged to meet representatives from the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority, and we talked about some of the building projects that our region and the Cleveland region are working on to try to build toward peace.
Okay.
Projects that deal with the Jordanians, Israelis, and Palestinians in agriculture, and then going up to the Galilee-Akko region, the hospital systems in the area. It was quite, despite what is happening in that entire part of the world, it was very hopeful. It was a very hopeful trip.
What is the mood like when it comes to our relationship with that part of the Middle East?
Well, I think all the polls show that the United States doesn't rank very highly among street opinion in any of the nations outside of the ones that we were in. Israel, we rank very high, but if you look at neighboring countries in Lebanon, if you look at Jordan, if you look at Yemen, Saudi Arabia, oh my goodness, Northern Africa, Pakistan, we're very, very low, less than 25%, sometimes as low as 13% popularity. So we have our work cut out for us in that region.
And I'm assuming that a lot of people think that what's going on in Libya right now, even though it's an international coalition, is probably not helping our cause there. What are your thoughts on Libya? Is it being handled the right way at this point?
You know, the first nations to bomb were all Western. France, Britain, and then the United States. And I'm thinking, regardless of what the mission is, and I really do think the President should have come to Congress for authorization to do that. I'm quite concerned about that.
Right.
Though it was a UN resolution, we don't work for the UN, we work for the American people.
True.
And I draw a very firm distinction there. But in terms of just the perception in the broader Middle East and Central Asian areas, here the West comes again bombing, even if for humanitarian purposes. It would seem to me that wasn't probably the best approach. But we'll see. I think when we go back to Congress next week, there'll be a great deal of debate about this. And we hope that carnage can be stopped. But I think there are different ways to really help to settle the situation in some of these countries. And the military means can only handle about a third. The other two-thirds is really civil development and diplomacy. And I was very troubled that all the Arab League did was to basically say, we don't object. But they really didn't help.
And essentially they lay it on us to do it.
That's right.
We look like the bad guys, essentially.
And it's very counterproductive, I think, in the long run. We just had 2 Americans killed off the coast of Africa a couple weeks ago, and by pirates. And this has been a long-standing difficulty in that part of the world. But we really have to be thinking about how to be building alliances in the Arab and Farsi and Pashtun-speaking parts of the world. And we're having a bit of difficulty doing that right now.
Yeah, and when you head back to Washington, obviously you need to work on the budget and the steps that have been taken. Is it a good idea to be doing this budget in piecemeal steps like is being done, or would you rather just see the whole thing done, whether you like it or not, just get it over with and move on?
I want to take the leaders of Congress from both parties and say, you go in that room with the president and don't come out till you got a deal.
You have a lot of tenure. Tell them to do it.
I've been telling them. But I think piecemeal really doesn't help give confidence to the markets. And it also doesn't deal with the fundamental problem. Also, you're asking the American people to sacrifice more when they've been harmed so much by this economy, to take cuts in education or to take cuts in feeding programs for the needy, when in fact Wall Street's doing just fine. They've been made more than whole. They made $55 billion. 6 banks that caused most of this trouble, $55 billion. That doesn't even, that so far outweighs the cuts that we've made thus far.
Sure.
Look, at the top executives, $26 million apiece. We didn't nick their bonuses a penny, right? Wow. I want to. I want to. Let's put the burden where it belongs. They've harmed the American Republic. Now it's time for them to step up to the counter. It wasn't banks here that caused the problem.
Right.
It really wasn't. It's those big New York institutions that injected terrific moral hazard into the economy, and we're all paying the price for it.
Yeah.
They ought to pay the American people back fully for what they've taken from
All right,
them.
we wish you luck in that fight, Congresswoman. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. And that's your Talk Back.